Hey everybody, my name is Megan Baker, and today I will be going over my capstone proposal for the environmental impacts of fisheries. Fisheries can have a range of negative impacts on the environment, including ocean dumping, illegal fishing, sewage, and pollution. These impacts can be influenced by a variety of factors, such as the type of fishing gear used, the size and species of the animal being caught, and the characteristics of the environment in which fishing is taking place. In order to reduce these negative impacts, it's important to implement improved management and sustainability practices in the fishing industry. This study aims to assess the direct impact of fisheries on the ecosystem and the ways in which we can affect both fish, and the way that it can affect both fish and humans. My research questions: what are the negative impacts of fisheries on the environment? What factors contribute to the negative impacts of fisheries? How can the negative environmental impacts of fisheries be reduced or eliminated? Rationale: fisheries are significant sources of protein but also cause environmental damage through waste production. This study aims to assess the environmental impacts of fisheries on coastal ecosystems and explore ways to mitigate these effects. The goal of this research is to better understand the negative impacts of fisheries are having on the environment and to identify factors that contribute to these impacts. We also aim to identify ways in which the negative environmental impacts of fisheries can be reduced or eliminated in order to protect coastal ecosystems and their creatures that depend on them. This research is important because fisheries are a vital source of food for many people, but their environmental impact must also be considered in order to ensure a long-term sustainability of these resources. Thesis statement: the research will analyze environmental impacts of fisheries worldwide and recommend ways to minimize negative effects. Background: fisheries harm the environment and society through overfishing and destructive fishing methods. Activities in and around fisheries negatively impact the ecosystem through depletion of fish stocks, chemical and polluting introduction, and damage to the marine habitats. Regulations exist to protect humans and the environment, but more must be done in order to prevent species extinction and ecosystem collapse. Fishing has several negative impacts on the environment. One significant issue is the waste produced during the fishing process, which can populate waterways and harm marine life. Overfishing can also lead to the depletion of fish populations and the disruptions of ecosystems. Illegal fishing practices contribute to environmental degradation and harm to marine life as well. Additionally, the nutrients released during fishing can create dead zones in the ocean, reducing the amount of oxygen available to marine life. These problems highlight the importance of reasonable fishing practices to protect the health of our oceans. Fishing gear and causing environmental damage. Fisheries can have a negative impact on the environment due to waste and pollution. This can be caused by various factors, including fishing gear and the size of the animal being caught. However, there are strategies that can be implemented to reduce these negative impacts. Research is being conducted to examine the environmental impacts of fisheries globally and suggest management methods to minimize this impact. Fishery practices have a huge impact on fish populations. Factors such as fishing gear, animal size, and species composition contribute to negative environmental impacts. Environmental impacts of fisheries can be reduced through improved management practices. Overfishing is destructive. Fishing methods harm aquatic ecosystems and human health. There are several factors that contribute to these negative impacts, including the type of fishing gear, the size of the fish being caught. Fortunately, there are ways to reduce the environmental impact of fisheries. Improved management practices is a huge thing. More sustainable fishing methods and a better regulation to help instruct people what they can and can't do. The relationship between human health and fishery practices. While we all know fisheries are an important part of our food system, but they can also have a negative impact on the environment. One major issue is ocean dumping, where water waste from fishing boats is discarded back into the ocean. This can lead to pollution and harming marine life. Additionally, illegal fishing and destructive practices like bottom trawling can have serious consequences for animal population, ecosystems, and other animals' habitats. These negative impacts can also have consequences on the human health, as contaminated fish can be a risk to our health and reduce food security. Examining the negative environmental impacts in different regions. Negative environmental impacts of fisheries include ocean dumping, pollution, and dead zones. Factors contributing to these impacts include illegal fishing, sewage, and fishing gear. Strategies for reducing negative impacts include improving fishery management and sustainable fishing practices. Research will examine an extent of nature of environmental damage caused by fisheries and suggest ways to address these issues. Best practices for sustainable fishery management. Environmental impacts of fisheries include ocean dumping, illegal fishing, sewage pollution, and dead zones. Contributing factors to negative impacts include fishing gear, animal size, species composition, and environmental characteristics. Strategies for reducing negative impacts include improving management and sustainability practices, education and awareness, better regulations, and enforcement. Previous research suggests that effective fishery management is necessary in order to maintain human benefits while protecting the environment and the marine life. Other case studies on successful fishery management have indicated negative impacts of fisheries, including ocean dumping, illegal fishing, sewage, and population. Factors contributing to negative impacts include fishing gear, animal size, species composition, and environmental characteristics. Strategies for reducing negative impacts including improved management, sustainable fishing practices. Previous research has also shown that commercial fisheries can harm aquatic ecosystems as well as human health through overfishing and destructive fishing methods. In conclusion, the environmental impact of fisheries is a serious concern, and they can have negative consequences for both the ocean and its inhabitants. These impacts include ocean dumping, illegal fishing, and pollution. There are several factors that contribute to these negative impacts, such as fishing gear, animal size, species, and composition. And the environmental characteristics. However, there are strategies that can be implemented to reduce these negative impacts, such as improved management and sustainable fishing practices in the future. It is important for researchers to focus on the direct impact of fisheries on the ecosystem and its effect on living organisms in order to better understand and address these issues. This concludes my presentation. Here is my list of references. Thank you for watching.